Imagine having the ability to open a door into the past and witness what was unfolding 4 billion years ago, moments before life began on Earth. What could a glimpse into this prebiotic world reveal about the mysteries of life that have perplexed philosophers, theologists, and scientists alike for millennia? Could it provide a definite answer of how simple organic matter transformed into life on Earth? When we think about creating life, many scenes from sci-fi movies pop up into our mind. Frankenstein creating a monster into his attic, or in Jurassic Park, cloning dinosaurs. The truth is that in real life, many scientists have attempted to solve this fascinating problem. Some of them, such as Albert Moser or Stanley Miller, made astonishing contributions to the organic synthesis of artificial biomolecules in conditions that mimic life on early Earth. This is not so far away from discovering what Darwin described as warm leader pond, the scenario where simple molecules in a primordial soup underwent reactions that lead to the formation of complex biochemical compounds. Shockingly, from the summation of these efforts, a leading scientific theory has emerged that sounds like the working title of a science fiction movie, Life from Outer Space. Analytical chemists have found nucleic acids, the crucial components of DNA and RNA, in meteoritic samples. Did that meteorite crash into Earth and seed our planet with raw material for the origin of life? In this fascinating scenario, our curious, our curious human nature wonders, what are the fundamental mechanisms that create life from these molecules? And also, what separates molecules from living material? The nucleic acids that arrive from meteors needed something else to transform into life. There must be a driving force that converts an amino acid into life. So, just as lighting a candle requires a match, the formation of DNA and RNA requires energy. The fundamental properties of life necessarily emerged from the disequilibrium of a restless planet. The origin of life was driven by energy flux. And energy is a physical property that can be studied. Biological evolution, on the contrary, is not a predictable science. In fact, genomes do not predict the future, but recall the past. Biologists can study through the genome the evolutionary demands of the environment, how organisms evolved to survive in the history of life. But if we think about evolution using energetic terms, we can aim to reduce the very complex questions to energy-dependent predictions and test them. Once we understand the role of energy in biology, we will have a very powerful tool to predict biological changes, as if energy constrains the origin and evolution of life. We can extrapolate the fundamental laws of physics in biological complex systems to have a better understanding why life is the way it is. So now we have two ingredients for our hypothesis: nucleic acids and energy. Those nucleic acids we have today are exactly the same as the ones we had back then. So understanding how they respond to light now, also it can give us a better understanding of what happened back then. We could say that studying the interaction between light and matter is like uncovering molecular fossils from 4 billion years ago. These molecules from who knows where are the foundation of life. And the self-replication of these systems is crucial in the evolution of life. But what is the role of energy in this process? The most common theory is that formation of DNA and RNA is driven by sunlight. Too much exposure to UV light, however, could damage DNA by mutating its replication. So, a logical question would be, what does sunlight do to the different nucleic acids to form DNA and RNA? And what is the sweet spot of sunlight to combine those amino acids into form a protein without damaging them? Observing changes in molecules under light exposure doesn't seem trivial. With the correct tools, however, we can use a technique known as spectroscopy to simulate the same changes that occurred in the origin of life. Spectroscopy is the science of interactions between light and matter. And this may sound like magic, but we are all familiar with phenomena such light entering a water droplet and separating into its components. And yeah, that's what we call a rainbow. And it contains all the colors of light. So, light is a wave, but what does it mean? Well, wave is a disturbance that moves energy from one place to another. Only energy, but not matter. In fact, we could imagine how energy is transferred. Imagine I'm holding a cord. When I shake the hand that holds the rope, I will create a high and a low point. But the piece of rope that is touching my hand wouldn't be moving. The high and low point will do, but this is how the wave will travel along the rope. Some waves need a medium to move through as a rope, or water, or air. However, other waves, such as light, they do not require any medium to pass through. And they can be transmitted in vacuum, which is why we receive on the surface of Earth the sunlight. Because sunlight, we receive it even when it passes through the space where there is absolutely no matter. Waves are so interesting that they are studied in many fields. Astronomers can observe the waves that come in from the space. Geologists study the waves that occur in the oceans, and also our parents listen to the news using radio waves. The same kind of waves that we all excessively use, posting media in our phones. There are many kinds of waves, and scientists classify them through the distance between high and low points. If I would be holding a rope and I move my arm more energetically, then the distance between high points would be smaller. If I would be lazier and I would be holding the rope and moving it slower, this distance will get bigger. This distance is called wavelength. Visible light is the portion of all the spectra that is detected by the human eye. So, this is exactly the light that our eye receives and our brain processes as a color. In fact, every wavelength appears through our eye as a different color. The bigger wavelength is red, while violet is the shortest. When all these waves are together, we see them as white light, but a prism can separate the actual colors as the one that we see in this image. When we set up a prism in the white sunlight, we can see all the colors of the rainbow that comes from it. And this is just a way that light and matter can interact. But don't get upset, because the only thing that is not magic in the Pink Floyd album is its cover. Now, we understand the basic of our two-piece puzzle, which is light and matter. Now, to understand their interaction, let's think about a situation where you step into a very hot sauna and you realize how crowded it is. You may be low-key disappointed, but it is too late to turn back. So you sit there and you see someone sweating excessively. All the people seem just fine, they're just bragging about their heat resistance, and pretty soon you will start warming up. And although you're not sweating yet, you may feel uncomfortable and you kind of want to leave, but like, you just try to play cool. In this scenario, every person there is affected differently by this temperature. In other words, every person is interacting differently with the same thermal energy. If suddenly the temperature rises strongly, everyone will break sweating. And the same thing actually occurs with molecules. Every molecule gets excited differently, same thing that people did in the sauna. If we give to these molecules an excess in energy, all the molecules will lose electrons. And I actually can show you an experiment if it starts. Okay, no. Well, I'll just wait. Unfortunately, I wanted to show you this experiment in the stage, but unfortunately, I cannot make flames into here. So then, with the help of Nico, who is a wonderful undergrad who works in my lab, we recorded this experiment over there. So in this experiment, we create flames, and what we have is different beakers with different solutions of ethanol and also different metals. When when I put a flame on them, when I give them energy, they first absorb and then emit the energy that I'm giving them. And the energy that they emit is visible light. Each metal contained in those beakers is different. So each one of them emits light of a different color. And by carefully analyzing those colors, we can learn a lot about those metals. So this is called also spectroscopy. So now we are ready to go back to the origins. Let's imagine an early Earth. There was no ozone layer yet to protect the surface from the sun's most energetic UV rays. The ozone layer was formed only later by photosynthesis after life was well underway. Our nucleobases are so-called aromatic molecules, and they normally, most of them, just break under UV light. So this suggests that any prebiotic molecules that lead to life must have been able to survive those harsh conditions. They likely must have had a high resistance to photodecomposition. In fact, RNA and DNA bases that form life as we know it today do not get destroyed by UV light. When they get hit by this light, they only need a trillionth of a second to lose the damaging energy that will break many other almost identical compounds. Is it a coincidence that our nucleobases are uniquely resistant to such as UV damage? Could it be that this is how, out of that early primordial soup, with many different letters, nature selected just those letters, A, C, G, U, and T, to form the genetic alphabet of life? And this is exactly what I try to uncover at UCSB. Well, me, Tanya, and Trevor, Nathan, Nico, Charlie, Julia, Shannon, and Sam. We all travel back in time by employing ultra-fast spectroscopy to understand the interactions between light and matter that occurred exactly during this prebiotic world that lead to natural selection. We observe with highly sensitive techniques how these molecules absorb and emit energy. And this is the door that allow us to see into the past and observe the processes that preceded life 4 billion years ago and may have been crucial steps in the origin of life. Thank you very much.